Good morning, everyone. My name is Ross Hunter. I head up the UK-ASEAN Business Council, and welcome to How to Export to ASEAN and Not Get Divorced. Delighted today to be joined by Chris Bishop, who is not divorced because he's worked out how to export to the region and stay with his partner. So we'll be hearing from Chris in a moment. A bit about the UK-ABC beforehand. So we exist to do events like this, raise the awareness of ASEAN amongst two British companies and get them excited about this wonderful region in Southeast Asia comprising 10 countries. And there'll be a test later on for you to name all those 10 markets. We do want today to be interactive, so there is a questions box that you can send in your questions to us, and again, really use this opportunity to delve into Chris's experience. He's got a great story to tell, and so much so that he moved out to the region to continue to live the dream out there as well. So I said, make it interactive. This will be short and snappy, and then we'll get back to our day job better for having learned about Chris's experiences. So, as you said in the outline summary about what do you need to win export orders in ASEAN, and there was three things that I kind of identified really on behalf of Chris. One was air miles, one was an expanding waistline, and one is an understanding partner. Now, Chris has already rebuked me because he doesn't have an expanding waistline. Indeed, living out in Singapore now, he's had to combat that as well. So again, it's one of the things that we'll be talking about as well is to how to stay fit while exporting, because again, it can take its toll on you as well. So look, without further ado, let's delve into Chris's past. Let's take him right back to his childhood, to the crib, in fact, as well, and learn about how he started exporting from then. But in seriousness, Chris, I mean, how on earth did you start exporting? I mean, we've met each other on numerous occasions now. There's a great story of the numerous trips to Indonesia to where you are in Singapore now. But what was your first trip overseas, and how did you get started on it? So, a bit of intro about you, the company, and then how you started exporting. So, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ross. And I have to say that the title did amuse me and my wife, but I think the title actually links in very well to one of the key attributes that if you're going to embark on looking at the ASEAN region to export, you need a huge amount of patience, and you also need a lot of trust in the people that you're going to be working with. I first started coming out to Asia many decades ago in the early 80s. And have been fortunate enough to work with various companies and to continue traveling to Asia and building relationships. And I think there's some slides that the UK-ASEAN Business Council have shown before, which clearly articulates that if you want to take advantage of the significant opportunities that exist in ASEAN, it is really important that you understand cultural differences. And there are two great slides that I know UK-ABC have on their website, which talks about Asian culture, where it's all about we, whereas in the West, we tend to think about me, and those bring together two very different behaviors. So I've been coming out to Asia for many decades. I joined Ipsotek last September. I've known Ipsotek and worked with them in a previous company, so I know what their capabilities are. And what really started with Ipsotek maybe 4 years ago, since joining them, we've seen significant growth and significant opportunity. And that's driven partially by the massive growth across the region and the desire for UK PLC products. I'm not sure many SMEs or companies in the UK realize that UK PLC as a brand has a lot of recognition and is trusted. And a case in point would be Indonesia, where I've spent a lot of time, and the results of which are that Ipsotek is the incumbent solution now at one of the world's major airport hubs, which would not have been possible without the numerous trips and the development of relationships and the deep understanding that I've developed of Indonesian culture. So I think, Ross, it's a journey that I have enjoyed. Yes, living the dream, if that equals obtaining air miles, that's an inevitability if you're going to be traveling from the UK out to the region. It's typically 12 to 14 hours and it's tiring. And I think one of the attractions of Ipsotek was that they were prepared to invest and relocate me to Singapore. They saw the value that I could bring to their organization, and actually being in Singapore now means that Jakarta is a couple of hours. It's a day trip. The same as if you go to Ho Chi Minh, which means that you can respond much quicker to your customers. And again, it's all about relationships. It's all about listening to them. So Ipsotek has been exporting for just over 4 years into the ASEAN region. And during those 4 years have achieved some significant wins. And the recognition of that is that those customers continue to come back for repeat business. In terms of UK-ASEAN Business Council, I've known them for a number of years, and I think they offer an excellent service. And Ross has not paid me to say this, because it will link people together, and it comes back to this relationship. And as I mentioned earlier, relationships are important. So one of the reasons I'm not divorced is that my wife understands it's a job I needed to do, and therefore there was a strong level of trust between us. 1 year I spent 3 months away from home, but the upside was won significant orders for the company that I worked for. So that was a personal sacrifice, which again is an important attribute and something to bear in mind if you want to develop the ASEAN market. It is the other side of the world. So it does take commitment, personal commitment. It also takes a commitment from within the business to understand what does that take. And I know Ross and I have joked that I think in the first 2 years when I was with a previous company, I did something like 50 trips to Indonesia, which you'd think, really? How can you justify that? The end result was that particular company is now a major player and an incumbent solution for a major airport authority. Very difficult to dislodge by the competition. So the win was the company is now embedded in that organization. So it does produce the revenue and the profitability that companies look for. I think if you're interested or your focus is to export to the ASEAN region, I would strongly recommend, as with all businesses, you need a detailed plan. But taking advantage of groups like UK-ABC, British Chambers of Commerce, Department for International Trade, and if you're specialists or you're focused in aviation, British Aviation Group, all 4 of those entities can assist you. So you're not just doing this on your own. And as you develop your strategy and you visit the region, what becomes very important is that you realize, say in a country like Thailand, everybody talks via WhatsApp and Line. I've even had tenders come through via WhatsApp, which is a mobile application. In the UK, we would think, how can that be? It needs to be via an email. I need an audit trail. But in Asia, they send it to you and they expect a response the same day. So again, it's an understanding of Asian culture. Everything is now, not in 2 weeks' time, not in a month's time when you've gone through multiple iterations. So that speed of response becomes very important. Along the way, you also have a lot of fun, because as you develop relationships with your partners or your customers, it becomes a friendship. And it goes without saying that in Asia, it is about a relationship. A lot of companies or customers have been burnt before. Company visits, promises the earth, nothing works. They fail to deliver. So customers are reluctant to give you the purchase order the first time. In fact, you may need to make multiple trips, which leads to the expanding waistline if you're not careful. I do have a regime I try and stick to, which means that doesn't happen. So staying focused is also a key attribute. And when you're here, do not be surprised if, as you get to know your partner, your channel partner or your end customer, you get invited to their home, you get invited to meet their family. That's a positive sign. That means that you have a trusted relationship. And that can also bring you dividends. I think as an overview, I think that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last 5-6 years with my previous company and now with Ipsotek. And before that, My first trip to Asia was in 1982, working for another British company in the television and broadcast.
Chris, can I just jump in there? Back to 1982, things are different there. I mean, you know, it's a very different world we live in now. How did you start exporting at that point? So I'm just trying to understand how you started there. And again, I want you to be honest now as well as you move, as you get closer to where we are now in terms of the help. You mentioned the chambers, you mentioned us, you mentioned DIT. Now, I'm not sure you've actually used all of those. So how did you break into those markets? I don't think you actually used all those agencies in your experience as well. So what changed from 82? What agencies did you use when you first broke into the markets? And then looking at now, you've advocated all these now. You know, which are the ones that you would absolutely use now and to save time and effort?
So back in 1982, there was no such thing as a mobile phone, and it was a telex. So I remember arriving into Japan. I worked for a broadcast company, and my instructions for the next trip came via telex to the hotel. And I went from one country to the next. And in those days, it was very much about you spending a lot of time in the region to develop a relationship, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. So as a young man, I didn't have to worry about divorce. I could do that, and I would spend months in Asia. In sort of rolling forward, you then build up an understanding of culture, and that's really important in this region. In terms of agencies and organizations that I would absolutely recommend, if you're a first time to Asia and you're looking to expand, UK-ABC. They can link you and they can connect you with different companies that are looking for products or services that you're looking to sell. And I'm not saying that just because I'm on this webinar. That's a reality. I've met people through events that UK-ABC have arranged, which I could never have met before. And the other entity would be DIT. I've had the benefit over decades of building a relationship through different embassies. And I've been challenged by previous managers in companies. Why am I spending so much time with them? Well, the answer is, as you build up a relationship, you're invited to events where you could never expect to meet some of the people that you meet. And these are senior executives, decision makers attending a private event. A case in point is last year at the Airport Solution Show in Indonesia, where I sat next to the Deputy Minister for Transport and had lunch with him. You couldn't pay for that type of ability to reach somebody. Even at an exhibition, you would never have that opportunity. So I think, Ross, for me, as technology has advanced, the world becomes a lot shorter. Time becomes immediate. It's not a telex now, it's a WhatsApp message, and somebody wants a response. As you build up your relationship through the two organizations that I've just mentioned, UK-ABC and DIT, it's about maintaining those relationships. It's not just a one-time date. It's a constant process. It's maintaining that relationship and developing it. And what you will find is you're invited to more and more different events, whether it's a speaking engagement or whether it's a networking event. And you get to meet the ambassador or the high commissioner from sorry, that was my laptop, in different countries, which you would never get to do otherwise.
That Ferrero Rocher moment where the ambassador comes down with those wonderful trays of sweets we all
absolutely.
But again, exporting is like life, isn't it? It's a bit of a cliche, but it's finding the right partner. And obviously, the British Chambers of Commerce overseas are key to that as well. Any tips on finding? I mean, cracky, if we could bottle this up, I think we'd all be exporting as well. But any tips on finding the right partners, agents, distributors in the region, and any examples of where you've had some less favourable agents and distributors in the region that you've had to change? And again, we're often asked the question of whether you should have an agent or distributor across the whole region of ASEAN, or you should have individual markets. Any advice on those sort of questions?
So my experience and my advice is, if you're targeting a specific country, and it depends on what you're selling. If you're in FMCG or if you're in food and beverage, you're looking for a master distributor maybe. If you move into a specialist area like ours, we specifically look for a channel partner who can support our solutions with the end customer. And that's critical because they're local. they understand the culture, they speak the language, they understand the customs that you go through in order to win and then support a project. And that's really important. If you're new at this and starting off, then calling upon the services of the chambers in different countries, I think, is a perfect place to start. They're manned by people that know. They know what's going on in their country. And I remember at one of the events I attended, I asked for a show of hands, how many people use the British Chambers overseas? And I think out of an audience of maybe 30 plus, 2 hands went up. I use them all the time. And it's a great tool. It's people who will say, oh, Ipsotek, yes, they do video analytics. They're involved in airports and transportation and CNI. It's a great sales tool.
Excellent, excellent. And then one of the questions we've had in from Paul, thanks for that question, Paul, is about finance, access to finance. Have you, how supportive has your bank been in the journey? Have you used UK export finance? That's one of the key considerations. There's others equally as important when looking to export, which seem to fall further down the list. Access to finance is up there. So, how have you funded in your various roles overseas the exporting dream?
In some cases, it is a challenge. So we'll start with the bank. Our bank is very understanding. Ipsotek started in 2001. We're a private company, so we have a track record, a demonstrable track record. So the bank believes you when you say, this is the order, these are the payment terms, and whether it's a form of credit or potentially a form of insurance, which is where we've recently been looking at UK export finance for large deals, several £100,000 type deals, where UK export finance can work with our bank to give our bank a level of comfort that UK PLC, in inverted commas, is prepared to back us in a market that may be slow in paying. So our experience is a good one. In terms of partners, when you're in a region, it is really important that you check the financial liquidity of whomever you're dealing with. And that, again, can be obtained either via the British Chamber helping you, assisting you, or possibly even DIT at the embassy. I'm going to touch the chair next to me, which is made of wood. So far, we've not had any bad debtors. We have had to go and sit in a waiting room in an office to get the check, but we have always been paid.
Excellent. And then a couple more issues that, again, we get asked an awful lot is culture. You touched on culture, and then intellectual property as well. So what should companies be aware of in general across the ASEAN region? It is a long way away, but doing business is not that different across continents, but there are more nuances. What sort of things should companies be aware of, Chris, when exporting to Southeast or indeed investing in Southeast Asia in terms of cultural sensitivities?
So I think if we take IP first, Ross, there are basic things that you can do to ensure that whoever you're dealing with understands what is yours, what is your intellectual property. And that's not just software that you've written or a product that you've developed, it's your copyright, it's your brand, and ensuring that you've taken the effort to protect those by including copyright statements in your documentation with your customers. It says this intellectual property is the ownership of this company, which is your company, and that if you have a non-disclosure agreement with a customer or a partner, and it stipulates that if I divulge, I will follow up within a period of time and confirm that it's confidential, that you do so. I also think when you come to the cultural side, there are certain things that you would do and certain things that you wouldn't do. In some countries, if your chopsticks are pointing at the person opposite you, that's considered a threat. If your chopsticks are actually horizontal in front of you, perpendicular to you, that's a passive position. You may think there's nothing in that, but to the person sitting opposite you, that could be insulting. So I would strongly recommend that, again, using the chambers to guide you, as well as UK-ABC or DIT, have plenty of information, both online as well as literature, which will guide you through what do you do if you go to Indonesia? What do you do if you go to Thailand? You walk through the airport at Thailand, and it makes it very clear. If you do anything which would be considered a defamation of Buddha, you're likely to be arrested. And you're not allowed to bring in things like electronic cigarettes. Little things that you may not think of, but are deeply offensive to a certain culture.
I've just got back from Thailand, realizing I've just offended lots of people over there with how my chopsticks were laid out on my table. So thanks for that, Chris. In terms of IP, a couple of sources of help. The UK has its intellectual property office here in the UK, but also has attachés based across the region as well, looking after ASEAN. So again, for the big ticket items in region, if you get into problems, they are a resource that are based in the High Commission in Singapore, cover the whole of the region. For more practical work going out, ahead of going out to the region as well, there's a fantastic resource called the IPR SME Southeast Asia Help Desk. Very catchy, but again, we can send details of that after this event as well. Lots of practical information on protecting your IP before you go out to market. If you're thinking about it on the plane, going out to market, it's probably too late. So again, it should be on your list of things to consider before you go out to the market as well. In terms of businesses, Chris, other businesses, and one of the things we try and do at UKBC is connect businesses as well. You know, DIT, ourselves, chambers are fantastic, but again, getting businesses to help each other is really important as well. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever come across where, you know, it might be a competitor, it might be someone in a completely different market, where businesses have actually helped you into the market?
We have experienced that, and you know, I mentioned at the very beginning of this broadcast about building trust and relationships. And I'll give you an example. There was a company here in Thailand looking for a specific product. We don't sell it, but I know a British company that does, and I've introduced them to that company. And on the back of that, the end customer thinks that they think we're different. We think we're a real partner to work with, a trusted partner. And it really is down to companies to decide, is it all about me or is it about we? And if you take the we route, as in you want to collaborate, you want to bring people together and assist companies or customers in the region, you'll find there's a huge benefit in doing that.
Fantastic. Again, one of the things that we speak to companies about is trying to get them to look up from their day-to-day work. You know, running an SME is blooming hard work, I have to say, and to get them to think about exporting to a country thousands of miles away is really difficult as well. So, you know, from your point of view, has it been successful? Obviously, don't go into how many millions of pounds you've made, but has it been successful for your companies? Because if it's not, then obviously it's not worth doing it. But I would suspect it has been. So I think the question is well, it's not the question. It's more of it to understand from yourself as to how you know, that there is money to be made from it. And again, if you can articulate that, us British are quite bashful about talking about making money. So again, any experiences you've had of that, of where, you know, it's you've had some lost leaders and where it's eventually come good and you've made some good money?
Yes, I think here when I first started coming out, probably the last 5-6 years with a previous company and now with Ipsotek, it is about patience. If you want to exploit the huge opportunity, and it is a massive opportunity across Asia Pacific and the ASEAN, the 10 countries, then you need a bucket load of patience and you need to be trusting, but you also need that within your own company. I recall being quizzed, why am I making another trip to Indonesia? Why am I making another trip? And at the end of that particular year, I delivered an international airport and said, we now have our first international airport using our solution. Everybody was overjoyed. So having that within your company and an expectation that it will take multiple visits. So, you know, as you said, Ross, running an SME is a challenge. You need to be focused, you need to deliver. But the opportunity in Asia is so exciting. And UK PLC is held in high regard. You know, people look at our products, our solutions, whether it, again, food, beverages. In Singapore, I can buy Waitrose food. Why? because it's considered a top brand. And I can go into my supermarket there and buy it. Likewise, you see Mini cars held in high regard. It's Mini, although made by a different manufacturer, but you know, they think of Britain. So as Ipsotek, you know, we've done extremely well and been invited by being in the region now, being invited by big corporations to participate in major opportunities, which we could never have done if I was not based out in Singapore, because you're remote. So it is about having a plan as an SME or any company in the UK. You know, you can start off small, you start to win orders, then you need to think about the next step. Then you're going to set up an office. Where would you set up an office? We chose Singapore because it's a stable country, excellent transportation links, not necessarily the cheapest, but that stability gives you a base on which to grow your business. And that also gives you opportunities. So you know, I'm very pleased that Ipsotek decided Singapore. On the basis of that, we've been able to start working with people like the EDB in Singapore, the Economic Development Board, who are inviting companies to come into Singapore and base themselves there. And they in turn provide support. So there's lots of areas and there's lots of locations and people prepared to provide assistance. It's really taking that step and deciding in your business plan, yes, we want to be part of the exploitation and of the opportunities that exist across Asia. And once people start to do that, it's really exciting. And I'm certainly glad I've moved out to Singapore.
I bet you are. It's a fantastic place. But just delving a bit deeper into that. Obviously, 10 countries in ASEAN, and it's like having 10 children. I love them all equally. But why did you choose Singapore? You say it's more expensive there. It can be in terms of hiring people, but my word, they work incredibly hard over there. So productivity costs over there are comparable across the region as well. But why Singapore? Why not Bangkok? Why not KL? Why not Manila, Chris?
Singapore offers, I think, something, and I'll use the word carefully. You know, it's quite unique. It's a small island. It has no natural resources, and yet you look at what Singapore has developed, and you look at the scale of what it's able to offer now, and with that comes infrastructure. So you know, expecting massive speeds over your broadband is standard, and it's not expensive. So to run your business from Singapore, it has excellent transport links via Changi Airport across the region. It has a stable government. You know, everything works. Transportation works. It's on time. It's a safe environment for which you can bring up, move your family. And all of those things together meant that it was the right location.
But my God, the beer's expensive, isn't it?
Depends where you go. I can recommend George's out on the East Coast. It's nowhere near as expensive as in the middle of Singapore.
Fantastic. Listen, Chris, our time is almost up. I mean, I've covered the questions. We've had a few questions come in, which I've sort of moulded into my questions as well. Are there any other top tips that we've missed that you'd like to convey to the audience on your journey to where you are today?
You were right. The ASEAN is 10 countries. And what's important is you cannot cover 10 countries in one go. So pick your location, understand who the competition are, and make your plans accordingly. And I would recommend, if you're looking at food and beverage, there's a great market in Singapore. I think every other weekend I see pop-up markets, and I saw a UK vodka brand from Dorset there. I said, what are you doing here? They said, well, we started exporting to Singapore. They now export cheese. They sell everything online. They have a fantastic little business. So Singapore would be a starting point if you're in F&B. Other countries to look at in terms of technology, Indonesia has over 600 airports. It has over 3,000 islands that are inhabited. So if you're selling anything in the aviation space, why would you not consider finding a good partner in Indonesia through which you can sell your solutions?
Fantastic, and you're actually getting meeting requests coming in on the questions now, Chris, as well. So we'll certainly pass those on to you. So that's good, nice and interactive. But look, huge thanks, Chris. Hopefully I'll be out in Singapore soon, so you can buy me that cheaper beer, because I tend to find the most expensive places to drink in Singapore, which is never good. But look, I hope that's been useful for everyone. Chris, thank you so much for giving up your time. I think I'm right in saying that if people do have questions on your journey as well, we can put them directly in contact with you, because that's something that we're trying to do as well, is do more B2B, helping companies help each other in a way as well. You'd be happy with that, wouldn't you, Chris?
Yeah, very happy with that, Ross. And in fact, I met with one of our customers in Thailand today, and they would like to be introduced to you, ABC, so that they can send their requests for technology and products that they're looking for in Thailand to British companies to see who can assist them.
Fantastic. Okay, maybe I'll buy that beer then. But look, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for listening. I'll let everyone get back to their day now. My coffee cup is empty, so I'll charge that. But thank you all for listening, and do please keep aware of the events on the UK-ABC website. We have lots coming up. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again, Chris.
Thanks, Ross. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.